Hey, it's Jordan. I am here live in Dallas. We are with two men that were arrested. They were protesting the murder of a 26-year-old black man here, Botham John. If you haven't seen the story, unfortunately, there's not been a lot of media attention nationally on the ground here. But over a month ago, so September 6th, we're October 8th, so a little over a month ago, Botham John was just hanging out in his apartment, like you might be right now, when a police officer, a white female police officer, according to her, went to what she thought was her apartment and killed him. She shot him, claiming that she thought it was a silhouette or a burglar. There's a lot of things that don't make sense with her story, which I'll get to while we talk. But the bottom line is he was 26. He was an accountant for PricewaterhouseCoopers, which does financial auditing. And I'm here with Shout and Shakur Siggs. You were both demonstrating with other protesters, I think like 2-3 weeks ago. And as you were walking away, the police kind of rounded up all of you and arrested you, and you spent 40 hours in jail. So I just want to ask you, you're both from around here. I take it that a police officer going to this young man's apartment, claiming she thought it was his apartment, shooting him dead, getting out in 1 hour. She went to jail. She got out off a $300,000 bond in 1 hour. She wasn't fired right away. It took a few weeks for the police department to fire her. She's been charged with manslaughter, but she's not like in a jail cell waiting for trial. She is out and free right now. I take it this does not surprise either of you.
Oh, no, I definitely, living in this country, it does not surprise us, being the history of police brutality and police privilege in this society. So, no, it doesn't surprise us.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about this situation, but I'm shocked about, the whole situation about coming into the house. This is like a first situation that happened where a cop then came in somebody else's house and gunned them down. And they're trying to have no consequence for it. You know what I'm saying?
And what's interesting to me, I mean, obviously, I don't know what you guys go through. I just cover it as best I can. But like Ty, who's behind the camera, always says, guilty like black while driving, or, things like that. But this is literally like, I don't even know the phrase for it. This is just like black while living. You're like in your apartment. And just so you know, the original search warrant, the cops said, or Amber said, that Botham lived a floor above her. So Botham lived on the 4th floor, she lived on the 3rd floor. She says she parked on the wrong floor, the parking garage. She parked on the wrong floor and then went up to what she thought was her apartment. And she, according to the original search warrant, she tried to open the door with an electronic key card, and it wasn't working at first, and then Botham opened the door for her. Then Botham opened the door for her, and she thought it was a burglar and shot. Then the affidavit, the police affidavit that came only a few days later, said that Amber, same thing, thought it was her apartment, walked to the door, and the door was slightly left open. Well, this contradicts with various people who live in that apartment complex who put out videos showing these doors are very, very heavy. So they just shut. They shut as soon as you let go. And you would really have to try to leave it open. Botham's attorney said that wasn't the type of guy he was. He would not leave the door open. He was very meticulous. But something that didn't make sense to me, among many things that didn't make sense, in that affidavit, Amber said that the door was open, she opened it, she saw a dark silhouette, it was dark, she gave commands, both of them didn't respond, and then she shot twice, and then when she turned a light on, she realized, she turned the light on, then she called 911, and while she was calling 911, they asked her, can you tell us where you are? At the time, she's saying she thought it was her apartment. So she walked to the front door to check the door number. Well, if you thought it was your apartment, wouldn't you just tell them your address? She didn't do that. She walked to the front door to get I guess the affidavit said to get the address.
Right.
So why would you have to do that if you thought it was your apartment? There's just a lot of things that don't make sense.
There's definitely many inconsistencies. In addition to that, she ignored the red mat. I'm sure she didn't have the same family pictures on the wall Botham John had. Even being that you being a police officer, you don't know how many people are in there, so you should have called for backup before you even engage that situation. So it's many inconsistencies that's in the situation. So we know, that it's plain out murder. So that's why the community is fighting so hard like they're doing to put pressure on the DA and Renee Hall, the chief of police of Dallas. Yeah.
And we just saw in Chicago, I mean, very rare that a police officer is found guilty of anything. In Laquan McDonald's case, Jason Van Dyke, the cop who shot him 16 times, they covered it up. He was just found guilty of second-degree murder. But we saw throughout this process to get to the guilty verdict a cover-up. They didn't want to release the video. They didn't want to release the police records. It's obviously a different case here, but similarities. They won't release the 911 call with her. They won't release her police records, which include this officer shot a man in 2017. Yeah, so she shot someone last year, and they also won't release the timestamps of how long she worked that day. They basically won't release anything, and also there's no explanation for why her body camera was off.
We don't even know if she was drug tested or not. That should have been one of the first things they should have did. DPD. She was all incoherent, didn't know where she was, the wrong floor. Even a blind person know when they're not in their own house or not.
Yeah. So talk to me about Dallas, because you hear from some accounts like, oh, the Dallas PD, they actually care about, civic engagement and things like that. But then we go around the country and we know that's not the case. Is the relationship between black people here and the police department as bad as other places? What's the background outside of this shooting as far as the dynamics between the police and your community?
Well, before the Box Spring cops was convicted of murder of Jordan, who's that, Jordan Edwards. Cop hasn't been convicted here since 1970 something, and it's been like hundreds of deaths of black people, brown and black people been killed by the police. So it might not be worse as other cities, but it's still bad. Mm-hmm. We still get shot down and they covered up, and it's no airplay, no nothing like that.
Till recently, there hasn't been a grievance policy to file, official complaint. There until I believe like last week or the week before that, there wasn't a way to file an official complaint on the police in Dallas, Texas, until Renee Hall kind of changed that, based off of the pressure from the community, you know what I'm saying? But so yeah, Dallas, I think people sleep on Dallas. They think since it's not really in the news here that they don't think like the police is really, you know what I'm saying, like that here. But it's real. It's a reality here, especially for the youth.
And also, what I don't understand, the first thing they did was get a search warrant for his apartment. What's the instincts? Like, there was no actual call on him. There was no violence. The violence was perpetrated on him by her. So why wouldn't you immediately start checking her apartment for, are you doing illicit substances while working? Are you, whatever the case may be, they check her apartment, and then in the age-old tradition, the police department leaked that he had marijuana on him. Right. I said, I don't care if he had a caged lion in his apartment. I mean, he wasn't doing anything. Right. Talk about the process where they, right out of the gate, started checking into him.
That's how they do. They, they tear down the good nature of us. You know what I'm saying? In the media, I don't care from goddamn Bill Cosby to anybody. They're gonna try to tear us down, the image in the public. That's what the media does. I know that you're familiar with that, and so it's nothing new, man. It's just blatant. You know what I'm saying? They doing it now in 2018. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's only people expect something else for whatever reason. They feel like racism is out. Racism is not alive in corporate America and all of that. I don't know why, but it's not a surprising to me that they tried to dehumanize this brother by showing them he had weed in his apartment when weed is still illegal in many states in this country.
And to be frank, we really don't know who weeds that was. That could have been planted, by the cop, or it could have been, somebody else's. We don't know. He's dead. He can't speak for himself.
Right. And there's something else. I mean, even if he was a bad guy, which there's no evidence that he was, it's not guilty. It's not a crime to be like a bad human being hanging out in your apartment.
He was the perfect black guy. He was the perfect black guy that America wants, and he still gets gunned down.
Wasn't he? Didn't he do prayer and things like that?
Yeah, he was very active in his church.
And the thing that you also have witnesses who have said that they heard the cop, Amber Geiger, banging on the door and screaming, "Let me in, let me in." Yet you have this musical chairs of explanations. But it seems like, obviously we know police department protect their own.
That's right.
But it seems to me that in this case, all right, they fired her after a pressure campaign weeks later, and they're charging her with manslaughter. But how could you charge her with manslaughter, which is the lesser compared to murder, without revealing any of your findings yet, without revealing, how does she sound when she called? Did she know Botham before then? Was there any issues? He lived right above her. How do they just automatically come to manslaughter and not murder?
I believe it was a situation where Renee Hall,
The police chief.
exactly, at Dallas, transferred the case to the Texas Rangers, and they, gave the suggestion of manslaughter, and I think that was done so they wouldn't, so she wouldn't be the one who signed off on the murder, which I don't know why, because the image, the narrative is like it's a black female police chief, a black female district attorney, and a white female officer comes into a black male's apartment, and these two black women who are in positions of power, like they tell us, oh, you should be in office, you should be this, you should be that, you should be in political office or whatever, and they're not doing anything. You know what I'm saying? Not for us. You know what I'm saying? So I think they're just trying to help her, like we said, police privilege. They're trying to take care of their own, and we just seeing it in real time.
Yeah, and I believe the manslaughter charge is a cover up so she can get off murder.